Vinyl Tag 2021 Jazz Edition. Hey Chris, tunes from the man cave. So yeah, okay, a new vinyl tag. Why not? When I saw there was like this jazz themed vinyl tag, I thought like, right on. And then I saw the questions and I thought like, this might be a little too American centered for me. Like most of the questions, there's lots of questions that regionalize jazz to the US, which is very different from my perspective on jazz. So, but who cares? I'll play along and find a way to do my thing. So the problem is that the first question, the second one, and the third one I could have answered the same record, and unfortunately I recently did a quite long video about this, since my entry point to jazz and my first record is a Blue Note record. So my intro to jazz was How to Lunch from Eric Dolphy. First record I bought as well of jazz. First record I spent a lot of money for actually, and yeah, well, still happy about this. Still the best jazz album ever in many regards. So yeah. So as this was the first, I thought like let's show the second one. The very second one is what we're listening to right now. Jean Guérin, Tassette, on one of the two most interesting and main jazz labels from France, where I'm from. So Tassette, the original one. Jean Guérin, who did very little, apart from this record, which is quite special and strange. And I guess that I got this more because it was like weird and experimental rather than jazz. But it is on the jazz label, and it is a jazz record in many regards. You can hear Bernard Vité playing the trumpet, with Jean-Paul Rondepierre and Philippe Maté on saxophone tenor, François Achard on vocals, and Jean Guérin on darbuka and electric bass and VCS3. So Futura. Futura was the label of Gérard Théronès, who run a club in Paris in the late 60s, early mid 70s, and he passed away some years ago. And this just got reissued recently, I believe. This is the original on the subsidiary of Futura, Futura Son, Futura Sound 04. And yeah, well, this is from 1971, and this is really a beauty. Next, a record on Blue Note. I have lots of Blue Note, but I thought like let's go somewhere a little bit different. Gil Mele, Mindscape. This is a late Blue Note record from the 80s, and it sounds very synthetic and sometimes a little bit like cheesy, but there are some parts on this that are really, really, really interesting. And yeah, it is an odd record. It's very difficult to explain what it is, but yeah, there you go. Now on Prestige, the only reissue I'm gonna show you, which is gonna make Michael 45 very happy, since it is a self-described audiophile reissue. Moondog on Prestige, the self-titled record of Moondog, and a stunner. This was released in the 56, I believe, 56, 57 maybe, and Moondog, the New York Viking, blind Viking, street musician. Absolutely amazing stuff. Now, an impulse record. Max Roach, the original mono release of his It's Time with his chorus and orchestra. It's not really, I don't think it's a difficult to find record, but it's really, really good. And one of Max Roach's best ones in my opinion. And there's a lot of his stuff that I find interesting, but like, come on, okay. You're a good drummer and it's a showcase, but this is just a great ensemble. And yeah, altogether a great record. A record on Riverside. George Russell Sextet, featuring Eric Dolphy. Aesthetics, featuring this track. Yeah, the track Thoughts. From late 58, 59 maybe, with Eric Dolphy on bass clarinet, introduction solo on it, which is, in my book, is the birth of modern jazz, free jazz. Then a record on Contemporary, Bobby Hutcherson. Solo and quartet. Bobby Hutcherson on one side is solo and one is with McCoy Tyner, Herbie Lewis and Billy Higgins. It's a late Bobby Hutcherson, but that's when he got over his like jazz rock phase, and when he's back to jazz, and it's a great record. It's probably easy to get, probably still under the radar, but altogether a really good package. Now something quite different. A record on a small label. It's not necessarily on a directly small label, but as I see that there's a Northern American perspective on this vinyl tag, I thought, okay, let's go with a record from Europe. Not necessarily with European musicians, but kind of in a way. So this is this is a record I love so much. I got 2 copies of it, and I like to overdub it. That's probably very sacrilegious for most of you. I just like to play them together with slight delay. This is obviously an homage to Charlie Parker. Tony Scott, the great Italo-American clarinet player. This was a very common album for years and years, until I guess a few people like myself started to hype it. And it's just a stunner of like spiritual jazz. Yeah, like absolutely fantastic record. And yeah, that's a record on a smaller label, Subsidiary. It is a subsidiary or not, because Soul Note has Black Saint or Black Saint has Soul Note. I don't remember which one is which, but anyways. my favorite purchase of 2020, it is also related to Max Roach and Boom, which incidentally is also on Soul Note. This is and Boom is like a big band of only drums and perks and tune perks. There's George Chambers, Freddie Waits, lots of people, Ray Mantilla. It sounds very organic because there's lots of tune percussions on this, and you don't, of course, Max Roach, but this is closer to what we're listening to right now, but also like Steve Reich maybe a little bit. Anyways, it's a really good album called Collage. Terrible cover, which I kind of like anyways, but there you go. Now, favorite disc in an artist's discography. My favorite jazz musician, not necessarily the one that I think is the best, but really the one that I'm a fan of. Like, I own more than 100 albums of his, and a lot of them are solo. Steve Lacy. Steve Lacy with Alvin Curran and Fred Resky on Oro, Italian label as well. Kind of not very good and reasonable with its artists and paying them, which means that most of these records will never get reissued because there's like no man's land of rights. But this is Steve Lacy, almost only compositions by him, and kind of ambient-ish, free jazz, improv, noise, stunning. And this is on the great Oro label that released lots of Bill Dixon, many great records. I just had to show, this is my favorite Steve Lacy record, but my favorite record with Steve Lacy, the Mal Valdron with the Steve Lacy Quintet on America, French label, with this track called Blue Wee, composition of Steve Lacy, 13 minutes. Stunning. This is still cheap. You can get it for less than $20, but this is only a French issue. Most of these records have only one issue, by the way. Like, there's only one pressing. So a record you bought in a brick and mortar shop. The record on my favorite label ever. East New York Ensemble de Musique at the helm on Folkways. One of the few Folkways without the fold part on the back cover. Bilal Abdurrahman on soprano and Korean reed. Amin Nuraldeen on vibes, and lots of guest artists. James Smith on bass, Kasim Ubeindullah on drums, Jay Rose on Turkish drums, Bobby Harvey on congas, Rakia Abdurrahman on African twin gong. This was issued in 1974. I got this on a trip to Miami in 2004, I believe, 17 years ago, and it is like mint, apart from like a little bit bumped corner here, but you got the typical Folkways record label, blue and silver, and this is a monster spiritual jazz record with obviously African and Eastern influences. And yeah, that was my brick and mortar purchase. I mean, this is an expensive record now, but I think there's a reissue of this. I'm not sure it's Folkways who reissued it themselves or if it's a bootleg. But absolutely stunner of a record. Now I thought like maybe, oh yeah, first record that you bought online. again on a French label, the second best French label in jazz, Palm Records. Mother Africa. Bayard Lancaster, Jonathan Dickerson, Kenos Speller, Jeff Gilson, the boss of Palm, French pianist, keyboardist. It is, what can I say? This is also highly unusual record nowadays. I used to find these records in France, not easily, but every now and then. But this one had always been elusive to me, and I don't remember exactly, but when. But a few years ago, I just pulled the trigger and bought this from someone on Discogs. I made a trade, I think. Yeah, it was expensive, but it's Palm, Bayard Lancaster, Jeff Gilson. Like, it doesn't get much better than this. And next, a record that was a gift from a friend. The first record I played, the Jean Guérin record, featured Bernard Vité. Bernard Vité of Un Drame Musical Instantané fame. I used to have a radio show in Paris for almost 20 years, and I used to invite local musicians like from back in the days or current, and Bernard Vité was one of them. And him and I became friends towards the end of his life. I helped him finalize a few projects and hung out with him because he basically he didn't have that many friends, and we used to have lunch together. He used to have like a bloody Mutiny every time, and he would tell me stories about the French free jazz, spiritual jazz, jazz scene and avant-garde scene from the late 70s, early 80s. And he was very cheeky. He was he was a provocateur. And one day, as I geeked out a little bit, he was in my radio show when he was the guest the first time, playing the trumpet. I was playing records like with him, so I was like DJing and him soloing on it, and I played a few drum records from Palm Records, and I was always telling him like the one that I was looking for, I couldn't find that. And one day he just came to lunch and gave me this. Exactement, Bayard Lancaster and Kenos Speller, double LP, gatefold, on Palm, absolutely stunning. This was recorded in '74, and one of the absolute best duo jazz records I've ever heard, and a double, moreover. Now I thought that as we are into the records that were purchased, one of the questions was about oh no, not necessarily purchase, but like format now. So let's go there. So first, a box set. Amalgam. Wipeout. It's a 4 LP set from this great improv jazz band from the UK on Impetuous Records. So Trevor Watts, Keith Rowe, Liam Genoki, and also featuring George Lyle on bass or Colin McKenzie. This is quite hard, quite aggressive music, but yeah, let's see. It is quite unusual. There's a few Amalgam records. this is the only box set, and well, yeah, as you can see. So it's saxophone, drums, guitar, soprano and alto. So it is. I have a few jazz box sets, but not. I know there's lots of reissues and stuff like that. I don't have stuff like that. I only have like box set because they were released as box set back then. Anyways, so 10-inch. Show a 10-inch or a 7-inch or both. So let's get to this. So this is a Danish 7-inch from '61 featuring Saib on saxophone, as you will hear. This was like 7-inch. I think it was intended as a commercial, as advertising for Ballantine's Scotch whiskey and OAS coffee. I don't know. This is a weird one. It's pretty cool. And a 10-inch. Let's show a library record. Town Beat. Basil Kirchin. Basil Kirchin is someone I'm obsessed with. British library soundtrack composer, and also avant-garde jazz, avant-garde modern classical weirdness. Yes, this is the London studio group conducted and directed by Basil Kirchin and Jake Nathan on the Wolf music. Pretty good because this one's got quite long tracks. Some of these have very short tracks, so this one you got even some 3-4 minute long tracks. Now, most recent purchase, which goes hand in hand with another question, kind of, because this was an upgrade. I've had this record for years. Archimedes board card. Archimedes board card plus Afro 70. This is a Swedish prog jazz ethno band, but this is a jazz record, quite on the funky side of things. And on the MNV, great Swedish label. And yeah, there's a 7-inch of this I got as well. And yeah, I found this recently, and I was very happy to. There's Bengt Berger on this, so it's a must-have for me, of course. And well, let's see. Yeah, there's two sides of this that are kind of the same, but let's play one more. Yeah, so that was the latest purchase. So 2021 goal. Well, I'm not gonna tell you. I'm just not gonna tell you. On my want list, there's like hundreds of jazz records that I'll be very happy if I find them. But there's actually only 2 jazz records that I'm hardcore looking for. One is, both are kind of American. One is on a Japanese label and one is on a French label. And these are outrageously rare records. Not necessarily the most in demand, but like these are invisible records. Like, I haven't seen any copy for sale anywhere for at least 8 years. So yeah, I'm just gonna keep these for myself, and I'll be very happy to share them whenever I find them, if I do. Now I'm gonna shift a little bit the question so I can get to some music. A record that not many people know but should know that I have. I think I showed this already on one of my earliest videos. And this is a French record on a French label. And oh yeah, this is Eddie Louis, self-titled. Eddie Louis, keyboard player, absolutely stunning. This is from 1960, I believe, or so. I'm not sure. Anyways, quite funky jazz, Caribbean a little bit, and this is a mazurka by him. This record is very famous, or not very famous, but like cult because there's a traditional folklore French song that he makes a version of that is absolutely stunning. I play this so often. There's also an early version of Herbie Hancock's Watermelon, Cantaloupe, Watermelon Man. But this one, Colchic dans les prés. This is a record every jazz lover should have, in my opinion. An upgrade. I don't necessarily need upgrades. I don't plan them. I don't seek them. If I find something, and I remember maybe my copy is not top notch. Like this, for example. Don Cherry's Brown Rice. This is the European version. I think the American version is... or no, it's the other way here around. I think there's an Italian version that is the original pressing. This is the reissue, or the American version. The Italian version has got a much nicer jacket. So if I find it, I'll get this. Probably get it, but I won't be going over myself to find it. And finally, a free jazz record. I thought like Anthony Braxton and Derek Bailey duos. Double LP on Eminem from 74 as well. 74, great year today. So you got Derek Bailey on electric and acoustic guitars, and Anthony Braxton on a ton of horns, mostly clarinet, which is why I'm so into this record. Soprano clarinet, B-flat clarinet, sub-contrabass clarinet, sopranino saxophone, and alto saxophone. So this is really, this is a fantastic record. And yes, so lastly, because I noticed you also asked the Desert Island Jazz record. I guess I will show this again. This is a jazz record that does many different things. It is like world music, almost post-punk, almost left field disco like the Talking Heads, which Don Cherry was close to in the late 70s, early 80s. So that's it, Chris. That was my vinyl tag 2021, the jazz edition, the tunes from the Man Cave edition, and I hope you guys enjoyed that. And what a perfect way to close this with Eddie Louis. Bye guys, hope everyone is good.